Good morning, John here, the hat guy. Got my hard hat on this morning because there's going to be some fallout. And when there's some fallout, you got to protect your head. The fallout I'm talking about is what's going on in this country and around the world. I've been talking about it for a while on here now. And for the last couple of days, Congress has been trying to pass a stimulus bill to bail out the country, because everybody was forced to shut down their businesses and stop working, for the most part. There's a few of us still working. And it's not their fault. So we come in to bail them out. But do we really want the bailout? It's become obvious to anybody paying attention over the last couple of days that the Democrats won't sign anything unless it's stuffed full of their own pork. I don't like the word pork for that stuff, but they stuff it full of all sorts of things. The original agreement that they wanted would have tighter emissions for airlines. What does that have to do with the economy? It would have, I forget what all was on the list. It was an insanely long list of craziness. Special subsidies for wind and solar power. There were so many things in this bill that had absolutely nothing to do with the economy. In fact, most of them would make it worse. And they said, no, we can't pass the bill without these things. Well, at 2 o'clock last night, they came to an agreement. Now, nobody's voted on it yet. And they've come to an agreement before. They came into an agreement Sunday night. And then when it came time to vote, all the Democrats said no. My opinion is the Democrats don't want a stimulus package right now. And that's something that they generally push. So you got to ask yourself, why? What do they want and what do they not want, and why? For the most part, the Democrats are all about giving money to people as long as the people aren't working and are under their control. And we've never had a situation in this country that fits that bill more than we do right now. So why don't they want the stimulus package? We got to look at the last 3.5 years. What have they been doing for the last 3.5 years? For the last 3.5 years, they have opposed the president and every single thing he has tried to do that would benefit this country or would undo some of the damage brought on by Emperor Obama. It's the only thing I can think to call him. The damage that man inflicted on this country is mind-blowing. But it's nothing compared to what's happening to us right now. We've lost our right to assembly. That's one of our First Amendment rights. First Amendment. And we not only did we lose it, we gave it away without even blinking an eye. Proving to them that the Second Amendment is pointless to most people, because most people don't know what it means. The Second Amendment means I have the right to stand up and fight when tyranny enters our government. And that's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to push an agenda that will ultimately end up with this country being a totalitarian regime. That's what they want. That's what they've always wanted. They may not actually say those words, but if you look at everything that they're asking for and what their goals are, they line up mark for mark with a totalitarian government. That's what they want. That's their desire. And to get that, they've got to get Donald Trump out of the way. And what's the best way to get a president out of the way with the track record that he has? Go back a month and look at the track record. Our economy was better than it had ever been in the history of this country. People were working. Everyone was safe and secure and happy for the most part. Except for the liberals who really want power over the people. But for the most part, everything was working. The world was looking up to us. And the Democrats had played everything they could possibly play. They even impeached President Trump for, get this, if you remember, withholding aid to Ukraine. Okay? What are they doing to the American people right now? They're withholding aid to the American people. The question whether we shouldn't be looking at aid for the American people because we shouldn't be in this situation. I'm still 100% utterly convinced that this crisis, and I'm going to use quotations, crisis, is manufactured. Is it a crisis now? Absolutely, it's a crisis. Most of the country is shut down. It's not even legal to go outside of your home in some areas. How did we get to that point in this country for something that has a death rate of far, far less than 1%? The Spanish flu 100 years ago killed millions, tens of millions of people. 3 times as many people die from rabies or measles on a daily basis than have died on a daily basis from this particular virus. I think is the virus real? Yes, it is real. Is it as dangerous as they're saying? I don't think so. If it was, by now, there would have been tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people dying in this country alone. And that's simply not the case. Yes, there are hundreds of people who have died. Hundreds of people die all the time and die every day. I'm not trying to belittle the fact that they have died. And yes, it is extremely dangerous for certain people. If you've got a weakened immune system, yeah, it's dangerous for you. But so is the common cold. So is the common flu. So is any number of things if you've got a weakened immune system. My heart goes out to you. It really does. But as a country, as a whole, 330, 350 million, whatever the number is, it's more than 300 million people in this country. And we've shut the entire country down because of a couple of hundred people have died. Feel bad for the couple of hundred people, but does that justify utterly destroying a nation? I don't think so. Yet that's what we've done. Because you can say what you want, whether you think this stimulus is a good idea or you think it's a bad idea, regardless of what the Democrats have plugged into it, then the point remains that we should not be at this point. A month ago, we were the strongest nation that we've ever been. Today, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We don't know what today's going to bring. We don't know where our next roll of toilet paper is going to come from, or our next piece of chicken, let alone things, of a more abstract nature. But the freedoms that we've given up in this country, all in the name of safety and security, are astonishing. And it should never have gotten to this point. And we will never get back to what we were. We may go back to something that feels like what it felt like before, but the damage is already done. Even if every single business and every single person who has lost a job in these last few weeks goes back to work and thrives financially and economically, we have still lost in this country, because what we've done is we've shown the world that we're not going to fight back. We're not going to exercise our Second Amendment rights. We're going to sit back and let come what may. And we're not even, in fact, we're going to beg you to do it to us, because that's what we're doing right now with this stimulus package. Could I use the money? Absolutely. I could use the money. Could everybody in this country use the money? Most people probably could. But at what cost? What are they putting in there? One of the things that I've heard, and I've not seen the package myself, so I'm relying on news reports, but one of the things I read yesterday was they had a provision in there that they wanted to change the currency to make it an electronic currency. That's dangerous. It goes against what the Constitution says. The Constitution says the Congress has the right to coin money. And based on that, it's only a loose interpretation of that allows for paper money. Money is considered something of value. When that was written, money was made up of silver and gold because it had value. Today, money is made up of nothing but a promise. And the promise is meaningless because the value has changed. I had to do some research for a book I was writing. I've written and published 5 novels. 3 of them are time travel novels, and one of them took place largely in the 1880s. It's called Time Awaits the Beginning by John M. Greer. Look it up on Amazon. But I wanted to make sure that I had my facts straight for the 1880s. I wanted to know what level of technology we were at, what an ounce of gold was worth, that type of thing. And in doing that research, I discovered something, and that is that the price of gold from about 1800 until about 1930, might have been 1932, but 30-ish, the price of gold rate remained relatively stable. It didn't change much more than $1 an ounce for 130 years. An ounce of gold was worth $20. You've heard of a $20 gold piece. A $20 gold piece was a coin that was worth $20. And what that equated to was the average man's monthly wage. You could support a family on $20 a month. That's hard to imagine today when $20 won't even get you, won't feed a family in McDonald's in some places. But once, let alone for a month. But you could live off of that. Now, what has changed? Well, we came off of the gold standard, we went to a silver standard, then we came off of that and went to just the promise that it'll be okay. It's been like that all of my life. That happened in the 60s. But what has happened since then? Well, that $20 worth of gold, now, I don't know what the market is today, but it's in the neighborhood of between $1,200 and $1,700, depending on the day and what's going on. And I'm not sure where it is today. I've not looked at it for a week or two. And with the world and the chaos that it's in, I don't know. But you could arguably say that over the past several years, it's been in the neighborhood of $1,500. Well, $1,500 is a lot of money. And if you're frugal, and if you lived with the lifestyle that people had in the 1880s, you could comfortably live off of $1,500 a month. So the price of things hasn't changed. What has changed is the value of gold. All we've done is change the numbers. And the numbers keep changing, they keep climbing. And yet wages remain stagnant, and it has the effect of taking money away from us. But I'm going down a rabbit trail here. The point is, we have changed dramatically in this country, and we have lost a lot because of it. And this stimulus package, the latest numbers I heard, they want to give every person, as long as you fit within certain financial guidelines, $1,200 or $3,000, I think, for a family of four, something like that. But is that a good idea? I don't think it is. I could certainly use $1,200, but I don't want it at that cost. And that's the truth. Will I cash the check if they send it to me? Yes, I will, because the damage will have already been done at that point. But I don't want that to be our reality. That sets another precedence. What that says is that if you lose your job, the government is going to pay you. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. Now, if you look at a lot of these communist countries, the government does that very thing. People work, the government pays them, but it doesn't pay them based on what they do or what they produce. It pays them based on, this is what we're giving you this month. And, you know, you can either like it or not. It doesn't matter. That's what you have to live on. And if you don't do your job, you know, there'll be repercussions, but it won't just be firing. It's about control. People who want to install a communist dictatorship, and believe me, that's the Democratic policy and standard and platform that they're running on, follows right along with the Communist Manifesto. Open a history book and read it. But if you want that kind of a life, it's all about control, because communism, and you can call it socialism, you can call it Nazism, they're all variants of the same idea. It's all about control. There are two classes of people in those type of regimes: leaders and peons. Those at the top, those at the bottom. There is nobody in the middle. And that's where most of us in this country are, is in the middle. I am in the middle. I'm probably near the bottom of the middle financially, but that's okay. It's not going to get into that. The point is, we are in the middle, and there won't be a middle. That's what they want. This is either, in my opinion, one of two things is happening. I've been saying this since the beginning. There's either a nefarious plot by someone to take over the world, and I believe there is. And this is either their attempt at it or a trial run to see where we are and how we stand and what we will allow them to do. Either one could still play out. I don't know. If we come back from this and the economy gets back to some semblance of what it was and people go back to work and things are seemingly as they were before, then I'll go with the latter, that this was a trial run. But I'm still not convinced it's actually a trial run. This could be the real deal. May not be. The president is already making noise that he doesn't like what's going on and he wants the economy back and started by Easter. That's 3 weeks away. And I applaud that. But it should never have been shut down to begin with. The whole thing has gotten completely out of hand and completely out of control. And we, as the general public, have very little, if anything, we can do about it. And we've allowed it to happen. And that makes me sad. I'm sorry that most of these posts lately have been rather depressing, but the news is rather depressing right now. And all I'm doing is relaying the facts of what's going on in the world as I see them. And what I see is not really good. A lot of people are going to be dancing and exciting and happy that, look, we're getting $3,000 from the government. We're not getting $3,000 from the government. Whatever the government gives you, has to be paid for by somebody, and that's going to come out of our pockets. And if they give you $1, you can rest assured it's going to cost them $10 to give it to you. And you're going to pay for that. So at best, it's a loan. At best. Because rest assured, taxes will rise. One of the things I saw that they put in the package had to do with guns and ammunition. They wanted a 30% tax on guns and a 50% tax on ammunition. That's ludicrous. Now, I've seen taxes that high before. I lived in the Bahamas for a while and I was subject to their tax system. They don't have an income tax. They have an import duty. Most of their goods and products come from other countries. So they base their tax system off of import duty. And some of those import duties are pretty high. But you can get by with paying very little, if any, taxes, depending on what you purchase, how you buy it, and who you buy it from. And you have a little bit of control in that kind of a situation. We don't. The government just says, we're going to increase everyone's income tax by 20%. You have no choice but to pay it, because they will come and take you away if you don't. And at the same time, what do we pay taxes on in this country? Everything. Everything. George Washington and all of the founding fathers would be appalled at the taxes that we have inflicted upon ourselves in this country. Do you remember why the American colonies went to war against England more than 200 years ago? It was because the heavy taxes that were imposed on them by the King of England. He had the audacity to put a 2% tax on tea, a luxury item. 2% tax on a luxury item. And we went to war over that and formed an amazing nation as a result of it. What would they think about our country today? They would have picked up weapons many years ago and started fighting back. But that generation is gone. What we've done is we've allowed the government to take over our schools and our learning, and what used to be centers for learning are now Soviet-style indoctrination centers. They were like that when I was a kid in school, and I'm in my 50s. They're far worse now. Ask the average kid to figure tax on something without a calculator. Ask the average grocery store clerk to do that without their register in front of them. The overwhelming majority couldn't do that. Yet 100 years ago, you could do that in your head. When I was a kid, we at least still did that. Most of us used calculators, but we could still do it. Today, it's not even being taught. Common Core math, that's a perversion if I ever saw one. It's not math. It's a way to make people think that they can think, and that's all that's important. You know, there was a comedian, George Carlin. I don't normally quote him because I didn't really care for his language. He was pretty free and open with some pretty foul language, but he said something at one point that made a lot of sense, and that was, the government doesn't want you to be smart. They want you to be just smart enough to operate the machines and dumb enough to not question why. That's where we are in this country. And our present situation, doing without our freedom of assembly. I couldn't even go to church this week because the church was closed, and the pastor told us that it was to be in compliance with the law. That's a phrase I never thought I would hear in this country, that the church had to close to be in compliance with the law. If that's not a violation of a First Amendment right, I don't know what is. But that's my opinion. I'm John. I'm the hat guy. I'm a little bit angry right now. And those of you that are angry with me, there's not enough of us to do anything. I hope I'm wrong. I hope things will change. And I hope some people will stand up and start saying, no, we've had enough. Stop this nonsense and let's get back to work. But I don't know that we have enough to make that particular stand anymore. But that's my opinion. Have a good day. Put your faith in God, because He's all that we have. And He's certainly all we have left now. But that's more than enough. My faith is in Him. I know from reading the Bible that I'm not going to be on this planet long, because we're playing out the worst parts of the events that lead into the book of Revelation. But I talk about that in some of my earlier videos. You want my opinion on that? Go back and look at some of them. But these are my opinions. I hope everybody has a good day.